Hello, and welcome to Web Relates. Today we're looking at the Choosing Beggars subreddit. Our first story is by Mage Tommyan. My favorite restaurant is a 10-minute walk away. I was walking to the shop the other evening to grab some bits for dinner with my partner, when a homeless woman who was walking the same way as me started talking to me. I'm a generally talkative person, so I engaged her in conversation, chatted about her day, etc. For context, I used to work helping people who were NFA, no fixed abode. So always make an effort to stop and chat with them like a human being, as I know how much that can improve their day. She then asked if I had any money to spare. I said I didn't have any cash, not a lie, but I was going into the shop nearby. Was there anything she wanted? That's when her attitude changed, and she just said, "I eat cold sandwiches all the time. I just want a hot meal." I thought it was a bit of a weird thing to say, but I can imagine that would get pretty boring. "No worries, they do other things. They even have a hot counter," I reply. "No, they don't do good stuff in there," she says, then starts walking and motions for me to follow. "My favorite restaurant is a 10-minute walk away. Can you take me there instead?" I said a polite but firm no, that I had somewhere to be, but reiterated the offer of food from the shop. She then started fake crying and calling me a horrible person. I noped out immediately after that. We were in a very busy area, and I genuinely believe she wanted me to take her to the specific restaurant and wasn't trying anything more sinister. It was annoying because I truly believe that the world would be a better place if we could treat the most hard off among us with a bit more humanity. But it's interactions like this that make most people just ignore them when homeless people start up a conversation. Shannon has commented, "I was shopping at a mall once and went to have a cigarette and started talking to this older gentleman. He told me how he took the bus there to see his daughter, and he's diabetic and doesn't have any money to eat. I normally don't carry cash, but happened to have $5 on me that day, and feeling generous, I gave it to him. He then looked at me and said, $5? What am I going to do with $5? 2 scoops of rice?" There was a McDonald's in the parking lot also. In hindsight, I should have just taken it back and said, "I guess you don't need it." But I just said, "I think you'll be able to find something," and walked away. Just the audacity of it was mind-blowing to me. Now, those kinds of stories always weird me out because as a South African, I do the exchange rate, and $5 comes to about 90 Rand. And for that, I could get 2 fried rice meals from a university campus, or probably a medium or maybe even a large box meal from KFC. Our next story is by Rainbow Sprinkles 4. You want a wedding cake for how much? I was very excited to receive an inquiry about making a wedding cake on my home bakery Instagram account. The lady gave me her phone number to hammer out details, so I gave her a ring. She informed me right away that she didn't want her time wasted, and if I wasn't serious about doing this, then to let her know immediately. She told me her wedding was in December, and she just wanted all of the details arranged and done. I told her I wasn't in the business of committing to massive projects without some details, so asked what she was considering. She wanted 3 tiers propped up on a sparkly acrylic stand. She wanted fresh flowers, white roses and baby's breath, in a cascade down and around the cakes, which should use that quilted technique all over as the base. Or, if I could use a mix of fresh and sugar flowers, that was acceptable too. But she could tell if the sugar flowers were store-bought, so I had to make them myself. She wanted the base tier to be chocolate, the middle tier to be carrot, and the top tier to be strawberry. She also wanted one of those little toy dogs you hide at the back with a tiny bit removed to make it look like it bit into the cake. This dog was supposed to be an Australian Shepherd, because that's what she and her fiancé own. And if I couldn't find an Australian Shepherd action figure or toy, I should make it out of fondant. She asked me how much I would charge for a cake like this. She informs me she's local and has heard really good things and has seen my ads on Instagram, and they want this to be a blowout celebration. I told her that I would have to do some math and pricing, but I think she could anticipate a minimum of $850 to $900, which I know was lowballing, but I needed some time to do some sourcing and math. She told me she wanted it for $50. I braced myself and decided to play dumb, so I said, "That's a lot of cake for 50 people. The rest of the conversation followed. Her, "No, $50. Me, "You want to spend $50 on ingredients?" Her, "No, for the cake, the whole cake." Me, $50 won't buy the flowers for a cake this size. Her, Well, that's our budget. Take it or leave it. Me. Okay, I'm leaving it. Her. Oh, that's just great. Really professional. What are you, new at this? Me. No, you're just delusional. Her. Don't get snippy. I'm going to go somewhere else. Me. Good luck. $50 won't buy you 3 plain cakes at Walmart. Her. Click. This was in addition to the fact that she didn't own a stand like the one she wanted, and wanted me to source and or make it. Our next story is by Mrs. Cyanide, my experience with a choosing beggar. So I wanted to share my story from almost 4 years ago when I encountered a choosing beggar I just remembered and still cannot believe. So a few years ago when I was 18 or 19, I was still living with my mom and paying my share of the rent. I was working full-time as a server and paying bills. I was a young adult then, just trying to save and make money. We had a neighbor across from us who was in her early 20s and a young mother of a toddler. We all got along pretty well until she started asking for so many favors. My mother and I have always been giving, so we had no problem with it at first, but it became too much after a while. After all, we were poor ourselves. She asked us to use the internet one time because hers was out. We agreed. We asked her to log off after using it for the week she needed it. She didn't. We had to change the password. Here's the crazy part though. She texted me and said she had a job opportunity for me. She told me she was about to start a new job and needed a babysitter for her 3-year-old daughter. She explained she needed a sitter for 2 weeks, from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. I normally worked around 5 or 6 p.m. at the restaurant, so I was willing to pick up this second job. When I asked about the pay, she said it would be $100. I asked per day, because that would be $10 an hour, which is extremely low, but I'd still be willing to help. I don't know why. Nope. She meant $100 for those 2 weeks. Total. I'm not even going to do the math on that, but I was flabbergasted. We weren't close at all. She expected me to cook for her, take her places among other things. Absolutely not. It might be a good job for a 13-year-old kid who doesn't have bills to pay. But hell no, I'm not doing that. Of course, she was offended when I told her I wasn't doing it for that little pay, and tried to make me feel guilty about it. The audacity was insane. She complained she couldn't afford daycare. A month later, she bought a brand new Mercedes-Benz. Our next story is by Too Opinionated to Lurk. I owed someone else's baby breast milk. I was just reminded of a conversation I had back in 2022. There was a baby formula shortage in the USA. I was breastfeeding my son and I had 1,000 ounces of extra milk sitting in my freezer. It was heartbreaking to watch. People were having to ration formula and babies were hungry or attempting to make their own, which is so dangerous. I split off my milk into 5 200-ounce donations, so people had something to give their babies while they tried to track down what they needed. 4 of the families were so kind and lovely. However, one lady messaged me after a few days and was telling me how well her son did on the milk. She was so astonished that she forgot to even look for his formula. She asked if I had more to donate or if I wanted to become a full-time donor for him. I told her I didn't have anything additional to donate, but what did she have in mind for compensation for a breast milk donor? She said, wouldn't knowing a baby had a full belly be enough? When I said no, that I made sure my baby had a full belly, but doing it for another family and producing for 2 kids was work and something I'd only consider with compensation. She immediately went on a tirade about how I was so selfish for letting her baby starve and greedy for asking to be paid for something you can easily make for free. I was quickly blocked when I asked why she didn't breastfeed if it was so easy to do. Our next story is by Superfly. Next time, get up earlier. Years ago, when my wife and I were young in our careers, broke as hell, our oldest boy's only Christmas wish was a laptop computer. This was way out of our reach financially, so I had been looking everywhere for a good deal on one. I found an ad for a Radio Shack holiday special selling a pretty decent laptop for under $200 in their Black Friday sale. This was at the time at an incredible price. I went down to the Radio Shack and chatted a bit with the staff to find out what to expect and how many they had. They admitted to me that they only had one, and that they only had 1 or 2 of their other doorbuster items. They opened at 5 a.m. and the guy I chatted with recommended that I arrive early if I wanted it. Okay, maximum effort. After our Thanksgiving dinner, I took a turkey-induced nap, and after we put the kids to bed, I headed down to the strip mall with a book and a camp chair. I was the only one, so I set up right by the door. It was after midnight before anyone else arrived, and people trickled in between then and about 3 a.m. Everyone was pretty chatty about what they wanted. At first, I was the only one who was there for the laptop. When I got closer to opening, there were some different sorts of people showing up. Some trying to talk their way into line, buy a spot for $20 or whatever. About 4 a.m., a guy rolls up in a flashy car, some luxury brand, I don't remember, and comes straight to the head of the line with his Starbucks coffee in hand. He gives me a story about how his kid has cancer, and that kid's only Christmas wish was that specific laptop. I tell the guy, sorry, but this was my kid's Christmas wish too, that's why I'm here. The guy keeps turning it up. He gets really mean and nasty about how selfish we all are, that we don't want to help a cancer kid, and gets right into my personal space. I keep telling him no, and his tone continues to escalate. At that point I stood up, folded my camp chair, and told him, I'm just some guy without much money, but I got up early enough to be first in line here. If my kid was battling cancer, I would have been here even earlier, and I sure as hell wouldn't have taken the time to stop for coffee. Either you're a liar or a terrible dad, but either way I'm not moving. Next time, get up earlier. I'd like to say everyone clapped, but mostly they just tried to stay out of it and look the other way. The guy just went to the end of the line, and everyone else looked embarrassed. The nice, chatty, excited vibe was gone. I could tell by the guy's body language that he was going to try to rush in and get what he wanted after the doors opened. But the shack employees did a great job. Just before 5 a.m., they came out with a clipboard and went down the line, writing down our names and which doorbuster we were buying. Then they gave me a slip with the laptop model printed on it. They had all of the limited quantity items behind the counter, and I was out of there with laptop in hand in about 5 minutes flat. Next time, get up earlier. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.